Welcome back to the March to Independence. I'm Steve Friedman, your host, and a parent, author, and advocate for the Down syndrome community. Thanks for joining our YouTube series, March to Independence. Thanks for joining us for our session on social and relationships. I think this is so important. So I'm joining you today from our family den. This is the gathering place for people in our house and most people's houses. And the relationships that are formed in the den and outside of the house are critical for all of us, and certainly that includes our family members with Down syndrome. There are really two essential goals that I wanted to cover. First is that relationships are critical for all of us, for happiness, for mental well-being, and for communication skills. So it's really important for these opportunities to be shared with our advocates as well, and they have the opportunity to gain those benefits. Certainly happiness is critical for everyone. Communication skills, without people that they can interface with, it's kind of hard to develop those communication skills, both the listening aspect as well as communicating in whatever way they are comfortable and capable of doing. And mental well-being. So in our next session, we're going to talk about common health challenges for adults with Down syndrome. And one of those is mental health. People with Down syndrome are twice as likely to be depressed. It's not a function of having intellectual or developmental disabilities. It is largely a function of having relationships and having the opportunities to share what's going on inside someone's mind. Having those relationships is critical. The second aspect or essential goal of having these relationships is safety and security. So we all worry about our children, regardless of whether they have Down syndrome, and that they're safe and secure in the world. We all interface with other people outside of the house, with a wide variety of people, some of whom we know and some of whom we don't know. And so understanding and grouping people into those categories and understanding what the relationships are, what's an appropriate relationship, can be difficult for all of us and certainly for people with Down syndrome. So this topic is really critical for us to make sure we are familiar with it and that we share and impart this knowledge upon our loved ones with Down syndrome. So to do this, we're going to apply the social circles model. So this model has 5 rings, and we start in the middle with immediate family. So immediate family is exactly that. It's parents, it's siblings, could be aunts and uncles and grandparents. It'll vary a little bit based on each family. And so these are people that really, they understand what Down syndrome is. They understand your child or adult with Down syndrome, what their needs are and desires are and challenges are, so they can make sure that their best interests are at heart. Not all family may fit into this category. So as a primary caregiver and parent, you need to kind of guard against that and make sure everybody is there to support the person with Down syndrome. The second circle are friends. So this is a really critical circle. These are the friends of your loved one with Down syndrome. So friendship can vary. Some friendships are rather superficial, and so they talk in generalities and they play around a little bit. So our opportunity is to help them to build deeper relationships so they can share more intimate information about what's going on in their head, what their dreams are, what their fears are. Hopefully they're doing that with family as well, but expanding that into a friends set is really important. Sometimes they can evolve into more intimate relationships, dating, and so forth. I talk about that in the book, The Essential Guide for Families with Down Syndrome. So we won't really talk about it here. The third ring are professionals. So there are a lot of professionals in our lives, and our people with Down syndrome in their lives. Professionals like teachers and doctors, therapists, anybody outside of the home that we might meet for a particular purpose. And these are really important people, and these are people that we want to have close relationships with. Obviously, the relationship is generally going to be different than a friendship. We need to make sure it is appropriate. We need to make sure that there's give and take and listening, and that the professional is directing questions first and foremost to your loved one with Down syndrome, not to you first. So that your loved one builds the communication skills, they can advocate for themselves, and they can build pride and self-esteem that they are part of the conversation, which after all is about they themselves. So the relationship with professionals is very important. The fourth ring is acquaintances. So this gets a little bit interesting because these are people that they see every once in a while, or they might be acquaintances, might be friends of yours, or other people in the family. They're not necessarily in the friend ring for your person with Down syndrome, but they see them every once in a while. Acquaintances are good people for them to build some communication skills, introductions, asking questions, they can share a bit about who they are or what's going on in their lives. But acquaintances are also people that you probably wouldn't let your person with Down syndrome be alone with. They haven't developed that kind of rapport. You might trust them, but your person with Down syndrome may not trust them. And so there's this level of safety and security that you need to guard against with the acquaintances. Acquaintances may also be people that you just run into at the grocery. Nobody knows them, but you're walking down the aisle and people are friendly, so they say hello. And you want to say hello back, but I think you also want to be very careful. And for most people with Down syndrome, it's really hard to discern. Should I really say hello because that person is kind of a stranger, but at the same time, I want to be friendly, and most people with Down syndrome are overly friendly. So I think it's really guarding against that a bit. Being a role model, so you say hello in the grocery, but you're not necessarily having a long conversation, and you're not hugging or anything like that. And that behavior can be translated back to your person with Down syndrome. And then the final ring are strangers. So we have a pretty good idea of what and who are in this ring. These are people we just don't know. Again, they may be similar to acquaintances in that they have very good intentions. I believe it's important in life to go through life expecting that everybody has a good heart, and people oftentimes do want to come up to people with Down syndrome and shake their hand or hug them and talk with them, and they have a relative with Down syndrome, and so they feel this connection, and that's great, but they are still strangers, and so treating them as such. So a hello is fine, but a hug is really just not appropriate. The whole topic of relationships also gets into the subtopic of consent. Whether you're in the family ring or the stranger ring or somewhere in between, if somebody wants to shake their hand or hug them, they should be asking for consent. Is it okay if I give you a hug? And it's certainly fine for your self-advocate to say, no, I'm not really comfortable with that, or no thanks, or I'd prefer to just shake hands. And I think that's a great practice for our people with Down syndrome, and important for us to role model that as well. For strangers, we need to really think about and share with our loved ones with Down syndrome how important it is not to go with strangers, not to be alone with strangers, not to get in a car with strangers, not to take things like candy from strangers. This seems obvious. Strangers and criminals are really good at their craft. And so sometimes it's really hard to discern whether they are truly a stranger. They talk about they're coming to pick you up on behalf of your parents, and people just assume that's all okay, and so they're going to go ahead and get in somebody's car. So it's really talking about it, role modeling it, playing through some scripts. What if this happens? What would you do? In order to really instill this importance, because you're not always going to be around. That's the whole idea of independence, is to build these skills and experiences so that your person with Down syndrome will be capable of handling themselves and being safe and secure in these kind of situations. And so we need to build those scenarios and run through them. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about around social relationships and safety and security is being home alone. So this is oftentimes a challenging one for our other kids, our neurotypical kids. We might feel like maybe around 13, it's okay to let them be home alone a little bit. They can take care of themselves. They know what to do in case of an emergency. We've gone through those sort of things. And then we might look at our loved ones with Down syndrome and feel like, well, this is just not really something I'm comfortable to do with my person with Down syndrome. But I would encourage you to do the same thing you would do for any of your other kids. Spend some time, talk through potential emergencies, talk through situations, leave them with checklists by the door. If somebody knocks on the door, here are things you would do or not do as far as answering the door. In case of emergencies, a fire or something else, what would you do? So have a checklist next to the door or in the kitchen, and with phone numbers of what they should do, and if they need to get out of the house, where they should go, next door neighbors, hopefully, that sort of thing. And then I would encourage you to step through it in a slow and purposeful way. So you might say, first we're going to work on this home alone adventure, and the parents are going to be in the bedroom, but pretend they're not in the bedroom. Take care of your meal, take care of yourself, and assume we're not there. But if you do have an emergency, certainly let us know. After that, you may decide you're going to sit in the car outside, or you're going to go to a coffee shop down the street and let them have some greater level of independence. And eventually, you'll have a date night and feel comfortable with that. But it takes some time for both you and for your loved one to feel comfortable and confident and have those skills, and that you have the support. Make sure they have a cell phone and that your cell phone is on in case they need something. I would encourage you to have a home alarm system if possible, just as another layer of safety and security, and something that you can also monitor while you're out. But having the opportunity to be home alone is a really empowering opportunity for your loved one, and gives them another big step towards independence, and it gives you, the parent or caregiver, the opportunity to learn about the process, feel comfortable that your loved one is learning and becoming confident and being home alone and being more independent. And I would encourage you all to talk about, plan on, prepare for, and take when the time is right. It's really important to communicate them, review them, practice them. These are all important things. For more information on this topic and many others, we have 3 ways you can continue to learn. First, you can join our website, beyonddownsyndrome.net. And there you can find free independence worksheets that you can download, save yourself, update, modify, and it gives you a plan that you can start to put together on how you can develop independence, including social relationships. We have the social circles model on the website, so you can take that. You can start to categorize people that your loved one interfaces with and which category they're in, which helps for you to discuss how to make sure the relationships are healthy and safe. Second opportunities, we'll have more March to Independence YouTube sessions, so please join us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we hope to see you in future videos. And finally, the Essential Guide for Families with Down Syndrome, Plans and Actions for Independence at Every Stage of Life, is available. You can visit our website. You can check out the link at the end of this video, and you can order your copy today. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Take care.